Okay, so the next presenter is Jon Meyer. He's from Kick, and he's gonna talk. He's a senior Android developer at Kick, and in the past he's developed enterprise and consumer-facing apps as well as software on variety of mobile platforms. And he's been developing Android since G1, everybody's favorite device, right? Yeah, it's an awesome device.
Yes,
he's got a strong interest in backwards compatibility, as well as interest in developing UI and behavioral patterns. Always looking to expand his knowledge and help passionate people make amazing things. And he's going to show us some of those amazing things now. Okay.
Woohoo! All right. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Better Living Through Custom Components. As you know, my name is John. Before we start, I'd just like to let everybody know that all of the code samples from this, as well as extended slides, will be available on the AndroidTO site, as well as the Kick.com developer blog. So don't worry if anything flies by you. And also, who here is really familiar with dealing with custom components? Custom views? Anybody? OK, a couple of you, but a lot of you are new to it. That's good. So it's big, it's fancy, and this is what a lot of people tend to think custom components are going to look like. People associate custom with exotic, and this leads to two kinds of things with the mindset around custom components. One is a lot of people never take the time to learn how to use them because, to be honest, 90% of us are never going to do anything like this in our entire lives of developing for Android. And the second is that if you go ahead and suggest to someone, oh, that's a problem in this class or that class, just go ahead and fix it yourself, they run for the hills because they think, well, I have a pretty standard problem. This shouldn't be something I'm going to have to go to all this kind of work to do. And so I'm going to say that, yes, this is a custom component, but this isn't really what we're going to be talking about today for the most part. So what is a custom component? Really simply, it's any class extending a default Android view. Nothing necessarily complex. You can see how that would be useful for a lot of things. And 90% of the time, when you're using it properly, it's going to be to add something mild and functional to your views, rather than make them fancy and shoot fireworks everywhere and all that sort of glitz people usually associate with them. So what's going to happen here? I'm just going to make sure that everyone's familiar with the basic mechanics of dealing with custom components, extending a view class, using them in XML, making your own attributes, and using those attributes. But secondly, I'd also like to talk about the mindset here. This is sort of doing this to improve your life every day as a developer, and a way of looking at problems. First is the idea that knowing is better than guessing. A lot of times you should be going to the source to figure out what's going on so that you can fix things. And secondly, assume that you can fix things. Don't just say, OK, this is a problem with linear layout. Linear layout's huge. I could never touch that. Just live with it. So don't do that. Feel free to get in there and poke around and fix your own things. So we're going to take a look at a sample here in a second. This is highly unglamorous. We're just going to try and get an image view to lay out properly, or to our specifications. All we want it to do is scale an image to be the maximum size it can on screen, and have the image view match the bounds of that image. Sounds pretty simple, relatively trivial, not something that you'd be thinking, OK, this is something I'm going to have to grab the reins here and deal with myself. But before you snooze off, I'd like to point out that it's not, in fact, as trivial as it seems. This is actually a bit of a problem. So let's jump into the code here. So we can see here, it's a simple linear layout with an image view inside of it. We've set the background to be red so that we can see where it's exceeding the image view bounds. And we've set the source to be a drawable. This is a 500 by 500 pixel image. So you can see it's being scaled down to fit the screen slightly. And it's got red bars at the top and the bottom because it's been scaled. So basically, our job here is to just try and get this view to deal with our image properly and make sure there are never any of those red bars. That's it. So first step, for those of you who know what's going on, is probably see if there's something that Android provides to let us do this. And there is. You can see here, adjust view bounds. It's described as set this to true if you want the image view to adjust its bounds to preserve the aspect ratio of its drawable. Kind of vague wording, but it sounds like it might be something that we're looking at here, like size down, fit the image. Who knows? Let's give it a go. So we'll step in here and just say adjust view bounds equals true. Awesome possum. And it looks like that actually fixed it for us. Now, this might be short. Let's load it to the device. Let's see this. Boo, 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 boo. And yeah, that looks good. It looks like it's behaving properly, no red lines there. But if we turn it sideways, we notice that this isn't exactly what we're looking for. We've still got some problems here. This is the first red flag. This might not be working out the way we think it is. And things get even worse if we step into using a smaller image. This is a 100 by 100 pixel image. And you can see that it's not sizing up at all. We've got huge red bars at the sides. This isn't really behaving the way we thought it would behave. Maybe we can punch something differently. We'll wrap vertically, and or wrap horizontally and fill vertically. Maybe it just doesn't deal properly with the horizontal ratio. Let's see. No, same problem in a different direction. So we can sit here punching at this all day. We've got something that looks like it should be taking care of it for us. It kind of isn't. And maybe we should get our hands dirty and go ahead and fix this ourselves. So any of you who are already familiar with custom components, feel free to sit down and be a hero, find out what attributes will allow you to do this properly. And for the rest of you, I'm going to have you come with me and assume that we're going to need to override this view, take some more control of it. So we want to replace this image view. First step, make a class to extend image view. Very, very simple. Class clamp image view extends image view, and just implement one of the constructors. At that point, this is the sort of hello world of custom components. No big deal. Part 2 is really simply that we have to reference it in XML. Switch this over from looking at the standard image view to our image view. Again, this is very simple. You can reference it in exactly the same way you reference the standard views. The only difference is you have to use your fully qualified package name, the whole path all the way up to it. So for us, that's com clamp image dot clamp image view. So if we go in here, we run this. Don't worry about it on the device. Yeah, so we're now in our own class. At this point, we've got our hands around it. We can override, add new methods, do whatever we want. So we've got a little bit more control here. This is the very, very basics. A lot of you probably know how to do this. But at this point, we don't have everything we need to be able to treat it properly. Just being able to use the XML attributes of the parent, really no good. It's, you're stuck with an image view that you want to have different things with, and you're just dealing with passing the same XML attributes. So to really get your hands around all of the machinery here, you need to be able to make your own custom XML attributes. So let's go ahead and do that now. All you have to do is go through your res values folder and add an XML file called attributes.xml. It's spelled ATTRS, but I'm not going to try and pronounce that. So every time I say attributes, it's going to mean this. Again, this is a very, very simple file, but unfortunately not properly documented in any way, shape, or form. There's a resources element at the root, and to that you simply add attributes tags. Attributes tags only have two parts, the name and the format. The name is how you're going to reference them in XML. The format is what types they're willing to accept. The second type of tag you're going to notice here is declare stylable. And all that this does is declares what attributes a custom class is interested in using. So we have here declare stylable. We're saying clamp image view is interested in the attribute clamp of type Boolean, as well as the attribute global. You'll notice that global doesn't have a reference to the format. That's because this is a reference to the previously declared attribute at the root. So if you want to have an attribute that's used by multiple custom classes, that's how you do it. Define it at the root and reference it by name. Pretty simple. So we're really close here. We step back into our main. Run faster. No, you're not in values file. OK, so here we are. There's one more piece you have to do before you're able to use your own attributes. So if we look up at the top here, you're probably familiar with this little guy, XML namespace Android equals APK res Android. It's in the top of every layout file you've ever used. Probably it's not something that is highly considered. It's just basically saying, hey, the Android namespace, go ahead and look at the android.r file to say which attributes are valid, which ones you can use in your XML. So we have to do the same thing. So we can say our attributes are valid. We can use them. So all we do is you say XML namespace, whatever you want to call it. Here we're using custom. And you use the same format as the above, except with your package, your root package, apk res com.clamp.image. This is saying, go ahead and look at the R file in this package. It also has some valid attributes for you to use. Once you've done that, you've got everything here. And you can go ahead and just reference your custom items. So custom clamp equals true. We want to clamp this. And it's all good and it runs. Again, notice that if I put in something that we never declared and save it, it's going to throw a bit of a fit and say, hey, I looked in your R file. That's not real. Stop screwing with me. So beyond that, you now have a class. You can reference it in XML. You can decide what things you want to pass it in addition to the regular things, and you've passed it those things. All that's left is that you have to handle it and deal with it inside of your custom view. So we just step back into clamp image view. We don't need you anymore. And we pull out those attributes. So this is just a little call to context, obtain styled attributes, and it takes in the attributes parameter that you see in a lot of these constructors. That attribute set parameter is the list of every XML attribute passed into this constructor. And we refine that down to just the things that we're interested in via this call to obtain styled attributes. The important parameter to note is our stylable clamp image view. And this is one of the things that's happened when we did that declare stylable tag. It does two things. First of all, it makes an array of all of the items that you're interested in. And second of all, you can see down here, we have a reference to r.stylable.clampImageView_clamp. It makes a set of static integers in your R file, which references the index in this array at which you're going to be able to retrieve things. The tooltips here are actually really useful. They tell you a lot about the format type and how you can use it. The documentation for what formats are valid in your attributes.xml file does not exist. So we actually have a full list of those in the second piece of sample code, which you'll be receiving after this. And it's a really good way to go ahead and look at what all of those format values mean, since you're not really going to find it anywhere else. So at this point, we've pulled out our relevant items. We can get the specific values we want via a.getSomeType. And now we've got our clamp boolean. So that's it. That's everything. Everything's into our class, and we can start using it properly. So that's really cool. Let's go fix this problem. So what really do we do? We've got to this point. We don't really know what direction to go. We're just, you can move attributes around all day and hope that Jupiter will align with Mars at some point, and it's going to work out properly. But we're kind of stumped. We don't know what the problem is. And this is the point where you just got to get your elbows, roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, and go look at the source. There's lots of tools available. I tend to use one called grepcode. I find it's useful and it's a little bit easier to navigate than kernel.org, especially considering that it's down right now. And if we go ahead and take a look at the basic documentation for views, we're going to see that you don't need to see that. Anyways, as it turns out, the important pieces for measurement take place in a view called onMeasure. So let's go peruse that. Oh, Jesus, it's so big. So we'll step through this. It's usually a lot easier when you have some screen real estate here. So we can see, let's step through. Comments, look at the comments. We can see we're supposed to adjust the view bounds to match the aspect ratio of our drawable. This is our old buddy adjust view bounds. What does he let us do? He changes this Boolean resize width. There's lots of things here. Let's keep walking until we find something suspicious. Oh, here we are. Try adjusting width to be proportional to the height. So this is our buddy resize width. This is what's happening when we're calling that adjust view size method. So we're calculating a new width, and it is overriding our previous width only if it's lesser than or equal to. That's mighty suspicious, especially since we're seeing behavior where if we call adjust view bounds on a smaller image, it doesn't size up at all. And if you walk through it earlier, you'll see very quickly that that's exactly what's happening. It doesn't size up. I'm not going to walk you through this code since this is entirely unreadable on this screen. But you can go ahead and very quickly just on measure for this class is a 100-line function. It's no big deal, very simple, 604. Ends at 710. So again, it sounds like going into this and trying to deal with it might be daunting, but usually if you step in and take the time to go look at it, you're dealing with really, really manageable code chunks. So go ahead and look at it and find out what's happening. So we know that adjust view bounds is never going to size our images up. We could sit there all day and try and keep tweaking things, and we never would have gotten anywhere. So we're just going to have to fix it ourselves. So let's go ahead and do that. We know the problem's in on measure, so let's just override on measure. Very quickly, if we're not clamping, pass the super, let it do its measurement, just be a completely standard view. Otherwise, we'll do some basic get our maximum width that we're given, get the width of our drawable, and find the direction in which we can scale the least and scale it up in the other direction to be the same. And then just set it outright. Not very difficult. Again, very few lines of code, very simple math. All that we had to do was go find where the problem was, go ahead and fix it, and just override it. So now if we go to our main class, we can see, let's even go fill here. We're going to fill in both directions. We have a small drawable, red background, and we're saying, yeah, go ahead, clamp it. Let's put this on the device and see if we fix our issue. And we have. The 100 by 100 pixel image is scaled up to be a full screen. Works in both orientations, and we have absolutely no problems. This is nice. And we never had to touch any of our activity code. All contained, all very nice, and quite simple once you went and looked at it. So roughly, what just happened? We looked at something that seemed very mundane, realized it wasn't working properly, and decided instead of bashing our heads against the wall, maybe we should go see what's wrong and try and fix it yourself. So custom components aren't just for exotic things. They're also for simple, everyday routines. And you need to go ahead sometimes and understand and fix issues. Bashing your head against the wall, trying to twiddle knobs on things, or going and sitting on Stack Overflow waiting for answers is good, but sometimes you should actually just get your hands dirty. It's not that hard, and every time you do it, you learn something. And I guess the last point of this is you're only going to get better, so every time you do it, just go do it again. So the goal for this, I guess, would be for you to go get your hands dirty and pick up some point in your project over the next couple of weeks. When you bump into something, instead of just sitting there after you've gone to the documentation, after you've looked it up on Google, if there are no answers, just open up the source, read through it, see what's happening, and try and fix it yourself, because you can. It's just people have a mental block against it. So towards that end, we have a bit of a code sample that we're not going to be showing you right now. I'm just going to describe it, and it'll be up later. With Kik, we tried to move from a regular settings to something more custom, a little bit fancier. And that was actually kind of an interesting dealing with custom items. You're going to run into a couple minor problems right off the top. Mainly, you're going to see two things. One is that there is an Android icon parameter for preferences. It's not respected in any way, shape, or form. Pretty quick to go find out where and why that's happening. And secondly is it eats themes. You go ahead and theme your preferences. The first screen is going to work perfectly, flawlessly. It's great. You think you're OK. You hit the button to go to a second screen, and the whole thing goes black. Absolutely useless. So go ahead and see where that's happening. We will have a solution posted, so don't worry. The whole thing's over here. And we do have a little class, which is custom preferences, and that fixes the issue. But feel free to try it on your own. Just give it a go. OK, that's about it. Thanks. Good.
John. Again, if you have questions, we'll take a couple of questions. We just want to try to speed up so we can get you those prizes and then get the after party started. Any questions?
My question's pretty simple. Where is this code posted?
The code, it's going to be on the kick.com developer blog, as well as I think it goes up on the page with the speakers on AndroidTO.
Yeah, we'll actually put this code on AndroidTO.com/speakers under each speaker. So whoever's got the code will put the information on there, so you can readily get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. What's the best way to package this so it's reusable in other projects?
Exactly this. That's the beautiful thing about custom components. You can see very quickly that as we have a class, our whole everything about our clamp image view is in this single class. If you go to our main activity, there's absolutely nothing in there, which is the nice part about this. Just picking up,
like package it into one file and just paste it into another project.
Yeah, well, you can. If you move this class, the whole thing, you can just reference it.
I mean the stylables and all of that stuff that you did.
The stylable, you'll actually need to pull that out of your out of the attributes.xml. Whatever you need, that piece is going to be copied over. So I guess it's going to be two pieces, but that's just how it works.
There has to be some manual work done to get it.
Yes, but you can, if you really want to be lazy, just copy over your whole attributes.xml, because anything that you don't use doesn't matter. It gets compiled down. It's real small. It just ends up in your R file as a series of integers. So if you're really, really lazy, you can copy over your attributes.xml and just leave all the other junk in there as well, and it's not a problem.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Carrying on with that question, is it possible to create custom components and make them into an Android project and have that get included properly? So whenever I include the Android project with these custom components, that it'll include those in the build process of my project that depends on those?
Yes, if you package anything as a jar or whatever and include it in another project, it will behave properly. And I guess if you want to get creative with it, the attributes.xml doesn't actually have to be attributes.xml. What really matters is having that resource tag at the root. That just means this is going to be compiled into your R file. So you could have all sorts of nonsense in that. But yeah, if you make a jar and include it in your other project, these things are good to go. And I move them all over all the time. They're huge godsends whenever you make a nice one. We have one at Kick. You just pass a URL to an image, and it asynchronously queues itself up, loads it from the internet, and redraws it to the UI, which is beautiful, saves my day, like 30 minutes out of my day every time I have to use it. So definitely go ahead and do that.
Oh, cool, thanks.
Okay, thank you.